It's time to hear it from Harlan. Utah Director of Athletics Mark Harlan takes you behind the scenes with the Utes, the Pac-12, and collegiate athletics. Now here's your host, Mike Lagerschul.
And welcome to the December edition of the Hear From Harlan podcast. Coming up, it's been a highly successful fall sports season. 4 teams have made the postseason. We'll talk about that. Football off to the Alamo Bowl on New Year's Eve to face Texas. Gymnastics and men's swimming both ranked top 25 nationally. Also, the basketball teams coming down the home stretch of non-conference play. Denisha Provo, speaking of basketball, will join Mark for his one-on-one interview. And in our final segment, some of our questions coming from our listeners. Well, Mark, happy holidays. Great to have you with us, and good time of the year for everything sports and the holidays coming up.
Well, happy holidays to you too, Mike.
Thank you.
Always good to see you and update our fans. And let me say to our fans before we get started, happy holidays to all of them too. It's
Absolutely.
been a great ride this fall, as you just talked about, and we can't do any of it without them.
No, incredible fall to have all 4 teams of your major sports, cross country, football, volleyball, soccer, all to make postseason. We'll start with football. The big game coming up December 31st in the Alamo Bowl against Texas. They're going to travel well. We need to get our fans down there for the game. It's a great city. The weather should be nice. So, Mark, just your thoughts on the football season and what's ahead here in a couple weeks.
Well, as we tape this, it's about 10 days or so after the championship game up in Santa Clara. Been a exciting football season. I think about all the moments along the way, bouncing back from USC and the incredible run we went on after that and destroying so many teams along the way. Think of the Washington game.
Right. Huge win up
there. How amazing that game was, and a lot of other games. But obviously, rough night for the Utes against an Oregon team that you have to tip your hat to. I thought they played their best game of the year.
I agree with that.
I saw their head coach in New York, Mario, a few days after the game, and he even said that.
Yeah.
So you got to tip your hat. But it doesn't diminish, in my mind, anything of what this incredible senior class brought to this community for the run that they had over the last few years to be the South champ 2 years in a row. So I encourage everybody to be reflective on the entire year and understanding that there's disappointment. But as we head toward the next step, student athletes bounce back pretty fast.
They do.
Coaches bounce back fast. Matter of fact, many of our coaches went recruiting even that same night of the game, if you can believe it, and into the weekend. But our fans, I know they'll respond. We're seeing that at the box office. Encourage everyone that can to come, knowing it's not easy. But if you can be there, we'd really appreciate it. We know that Texas is 90 minutes via drive to the Alamo Dome, so we're going to be outnumbered in that way. But everyone that'll be there, I think, will be treated to a great performance. It'll be a great event. The Alamo Bowl does a great job. Derek Fox is the president of the bowl. He does a terrific job putting on a incredible experience for all involved. So we're excited. It's a great opponent. The seniors are excited to lead us into that game. And I can't wait for it.
Yeah, Oregon had a great season. People forget, that loss at ASU really kind of changed the perspective of what they did. If they win that game, they're probably 4th or 5th. We're right behind them. The winner of the Pac-12 championship goes to the playoff. Loser goes to the Rose Bowl. It just didn't work out that way.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of that. And it is disappointing when you watch the other championship games and see the runner-ups go to year 6. And, I think on the whole, the Pac-12 had a better year. I think we gained some credibility back. I think we have a lot of work to do. But I think we made steps forward in that regard. However, our league, has the challenge of beating each other up.
Right.
And of course, Arizona State, helped us by beating, Oregon helped us by beating USC, and then they lost to Arizona State.
Right. Kind of gave it back.
So that kind of put us in the situation where when we didn't beat Oregon. But you know what? That's why we play the games.
Mm-hmm.
The other team practices. Oregon is, as you said, had a great year. Barely lost to Auburn and had a tough road game at Tempe. But Alamo Bowl is another step up. It's the most high-profile bowl we've been to since we've been in the Pac-12, and it's another step in our progress. So again, guys are really looking forward to it. They had some really good practices last week, and the word I like to use is onward.
Great city as well. I can't emphasize that enough. For fans thinking about, I want to go down maybe, enjoy the weather. Wonderful matchup against Texas. Should be a lot of fun on New Year's Eve. All right, Mark, let's talk about volleyball. A huge run for Beth Lanier's crew. You and I have talked about her a lot, the job she's done in the 30 years here. Her 4th Sweet 16, their 2nd in 3 years. I talked to Manny Hendricks and Nona Richardson yesterday. They were texting back and forth thinking, we're going to do this. You know, we were headed there and just lost in a tough 5-setter to a very good Stanford team at home. What a great run for Beth Lanier's crew this year.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And just an absolutely incredible run. You know, the year didn't start off easy. We had some injuries and some sickness and some things and in and out of the lineup, but we have a fairly seasoned coach.
Yes.
The Pac-12 Coach of the Year, and Beth Lanier, and she navigated those rough waters. And you know, as the league season started, it's what you want to see from your teams. As the league season started, we just got better and better and better, and then we finished third in the most competitive, without question, conference in America. Disappointed, and I was somewhat vocal about it, that we didn't get a chance to host. Felt like we deserved it and earned it, but you just pick yourself up, move forward. So when I got back from the Pac-12 championship game at 4 a.m, you know, slogging around the house a little bit, I got in my car and I went down to that BYU game. And you know, what is it, like 4,000 people in there?
Oh, it's crazy.
The place is packed.
Yes.
It's like the Hoosiers gym.
It's an old field house.
It's an old field house down there. And it's just crazy. They're on top of you. And we just went through them. I mean, 3 straight games. I think the closest game was, I think they were all like
25-15, I think.
3 games. I mean, the game was over before it started.
Yeah.
And just incredible. One of the most dominating performances I've seen of any of our sports in the year and a half I've been here. And then we get off to Stanford. And holy cow, we win the first game, lose the next 2, and then just dominate them in game 4, setting up this epic 5th game showdown. We didn't get it. But gosh, it was heroic. It was unbelievable. And I wasn't able to get there, so I watched it, you know, on ESPNU, glued to it. And then it was interesting when I heard from some folks that were there that Stanford came over after the game, after everyone had changed, and came up and just said that was the match of the ages for them.
Wow.
They had not been battled like that, and particularly in the postseason, as we know. I think they're 2-time defending champions. And so really respect from an opponent. But what a great job. I think we're going to get some good news on some high accolades for those individual team members coming up over the next few days. But incredible job by Beth and the team.
No question. Beth Lanier, Coach of the Year in the Pac-12, also the AVCA Region Coach of the Year. Great run again by Beth Lanier's crew, and that's high praise. Stanford's been in a lot of tough postseason matches for them to come over and make those comments.
Well, then the next thing they swept Penn State in the grade 8 game. You know, I mean, it was crazy, and they were an inch from getting knocked out. So. And a lot of our we'll lose incredible young ladies on that team, but a lot of talent returns too. So it's just the beginning.
Yep, Danny Drew's batting next
in her 34th year.
Yeah.
It's just the beginning.
Great for her. So that'll be fun this year for Beth's crew. Also, women's soccer making NCAAs for Rich Manning. They were one of the last teams in, but got there after a strong finish, some big results in a row late, and also cross country. Kyle Kepler's crew. 16th at NCAA's, their best finish ever. Some really good finishes by soccer and cross country.
Great job by both those teams. You know, it was a big step forward for the women's soccer team to get back into the tournament. We're real proud of Rich and all the efforts there. And then, of course, you mentioned cross country. I mean, what a great team. You know, just been through a lot, that group, particularly the senior class, and then to finish the best ever, you know, beat Colorado twice this year, the defending champion Colorado, and just so I think overall, Mike, as we look back on the fall, incredible success by our team. And it's what we can be here. It's what we will be here. Administration supporting coaches and the student athlete and what they need. The coaches and student athletes giving it everything they have with incredible young people. But it's an exciting time for Utah athletics.
Yeah, sure is. Looking forward to the winter sports. Gymnastics ranked 5th preseason. They will open up against number 12 Kentucky at home January 3rd. And also men's swimming. Joe Dykstra kind of quietly doing a nice job. He had his team
down. He is quiet over there.
Just such a nice, laid-back guy.
Better and better and better. They're awesome.
Yep, ranked 21st right now in the country. They had a good, strong finish as the runner-up at the Georgia Tech Invitational, so congrats to them. Let's talk about hoops. You're off to Vegas, I know, to watch our men's team play in the T-Mobile Arena against number 6 Kentucky coming up on Wednesday.
Well, why not, right?
Why not?
Just go play Kentucky, and it's exciting. I am going to travel with the team today and spend some time with those guys as they have a, high-profile matchup. It's kind of cool. We're playing on the court where the Pac-12 championship will be held in just a few short months, but youth. We both our basketball programs, men and women, are just incredibly young, extraordinarily young, in terms of what we're asking them to do. But both of them have nice records as we get inch closer to the league season. And, obviously for the men, highlighted by that incredible BYU win at home last week. And really want to thank our fans. They were incredible that night. They were loud. They were on their feet. And I think really helped the surge.
No question.
Fans help in any sport. But, boy, in basketball, you can really feel it.
Yep.
And especially, I'm privileged to be able to ask the guys, hey, did you get a surge? I'm like, heck yeah, we got a surge on that. I mean, so, I think that I think fans are going to start to get to know both the men's and women's team as they move forward and how much they fight. A lot of Utah kids on both those rosters, and encourage everybody to come out and help us out and help us win.
Yeah, it should be fun when conference play comes around. Number 8 Oregon on the men's side, an early Pac-12 home game. Colorado was ranked last week. We'll face them early, and then also number 16 Arizona. That's 3 of your first 4 Pac-12 games for the men. The women, tough schedule as well. They got Colorado at home December 29th, but on the road then against number 4 Oregon State, number 3 Oregon. Those teams will get a pretty good feel of league play early in January.
Got to play them.
You sure do.
You got to play them, and so when you play a tough game that Larry scheduled, for example, versus Kentucky, that only helps you.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you from the eyes of the committee and helping you prepare. And although we came out on the losing side in women's last night as we taped this against Providence, that's a team that's ranked second in America in women's basketball, and there's 300 plus teams in 3-point shooting. So you learn from those kind of things and how to defend that in the future and how to handle that. So it's all about getting ready for conference season, and I think both teams will be raring to go.
All right, speaking of basketball, when we come back, Denisha Provo, the women's basketball team, will join Marv for his one-on-one interview. That's when we come back with more of the Here from Harlan podcast in just a moment.
Time now for Utah's head man to catch up with one of Utah's star student athletes. Once again, here's Utah Athletics Director Mark Harlan on the Hear It from Harlan podcast.
Well, as always, the best part of doing this podcast is when I have the opportunity to hear from one of our student athletes. And today we have one that's near and dear to my heart. And Denisha Provo, thank you for being here today from our incredible women's basketball team. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to talk to you because, as we've talked before on the podcast with our students, everybody has a journey. Everybody has a story that got them to Utah, and then when they're at Utah, they have a story. So if you would, talk a little bit about you. We know you started at Clemson. That was your choice coming out of high school, and then you realized quickly that University of Utah was better.
Yeah.
But talk to me a little bit about your journey as we sit here today.
It was definitely a lot of ups and downs. I went to boarding school, which is in Connecticut, for 4 years. Never thought I would do it, but my parents made me. Coming out of boarding school, I was able to get my first offer from Clemson, and the first thing they did was take me to a football game, so it kind of sold me.
Wow.
Just took one visit out of all my visits. I feel like that kind of, I didn't really have an idea of what I really wanted, but the football game was just amazing, so it just kind of sold me on the university. I stayed there until December 27th. I didn't really love the game. It just drained. It took a lot out of me. I just wasn't happy there. It's just everything there. It wasn't part of who I am. So after that, I went home for a semester, stayed there, took some classes back in Canada for about 5-6 months. And then Coach Gavin, whose wife is from Nova Scotia as well, came and reached out to me and told me that he just got the coaching job here. And they really wanted me to come out here to the University of Utah. There's a lot of Canadians that played here. I heard great things about it.
The pipeline.
Yeah, the pipeline is really strong. And with the national team, my coach from the national team was like, hey, Utah's a great program, great conference. I think you'll do great there, and I think you'll love it. Took a visit out here, and I just loved it every second of it since I've been here.
That's obviously gratifying for me to hear that it's been such a great experience for you. And I didn't know that about Gavin.
Yeah.
That was the connection. I was going to ask you about that. But you said something there that was really interesting about the Clemson experience. And it's not about necessarily Clemson or any other university. It's like you lost your love of the game. What about Utah bring the love back for you?
Honestly, I feel like it's the fans. They just love the Canadians out here. If they see us Canadian signed or anything. They're just so like warm, and you're not really an outsider. I felt like at Clemson, I was the only Canadian, the only international player. So I just felt like an outsider. I didn't really fit in with the Southern culture. It was just all new to me. Whereas out here, it was like I had a couple of teammates that I played with on the national team, and it was just like family, the family atmosphere. The coaches are amazing. The fans are amazing, and I just felt that connection with everyone. We had international players, so everyone just fit in. No one was really an outsider out here.
Well, it's funny because the love of the game is I think one of the big things I talk to our coaches about. Recruiting young people that are obviously very good at what they do, care about graduating and those kind of things. But I think everybody that goes through here has a moment here or any college experience where they're not sure. But you were able to be courageous. Sometimes I think transferring is a courageous step because you have to face things. Folks sometimes get emotional about transfers.
Yeah.
I hear from it, and I tell folks all the time, we benefit from transfers, and some kids leave. But boy, have we benefited from you being here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So last year, let's fast forward a little bit from when you arrived and then into last season. You guys were off and just an incredible start, and particularly you in a team sport. Let's talk about you. You were just absolutely killing it, right? And just starting and doing all the thing. And then adversity hit again.
Yeah.
So I don't want to dwell on negative because you had a fabulous year, but just tell people exactly what happened and then how you have now. We're going to get to the great part of the story, which was last weekend. But talk to us a little bit about what happened when you got to the Arizona State game last year.
It was definitely a lot of emotions. When I went down, I didn't think it was my ACL. I kind of had a feeling that it was, but it didn't really hit me. And then when my trainer came to us and she was like, hey, like, you tore your ACL. I know it's not what you want to hear after a great season like that you've been having. I know you want to be with the team and everything. It was just like I was in denial for so long. Like, I just couldn't accept it. It was my senior year. We had the best start in school history. I was with Megan Huff and Erica Bean, who I started out here with, and we talked so much about all these big goals and making it to the NCAA tournament. And, like, we were just so used to playing with each other. Like, it was our senior year, and we wanted to make the most of it. But after I went down, it was really hard. I didn't want to accept it, but lucky enough, I had Drew, who's a sophomore now, and Mo Corbin, who also went through it. It was kind of nice just having them in my corner because everyone else was just like, you're going to be fine. But, like,
they went through it.
But they didn't really, they went through it. So, like, they just kept being honest with me. Like, hey, like, it's going to be hard. Like, if you have to cry, cry. Like, if you have to vent, just vent. Don't let it all stay in because that's when emotions will build up. So they were two that really got me through it. And they just told me that it's a long process, but you're going to get through it and you're going to learn a lot about yourself and about your body. And it was probably one of the hardest years of my life. Like, not just at Utah, but in my entire life. Just the emotions and the physical, like, I never had an injury like that. It's definitely more mental draining than the physical part, just because rehabbing every day. And it was just my senior year. That's not the way I wanted to end it. It was a lot. And it's not what I expected, but going forward, I don't think I would be the person I am today without going through that injury. I learned a lot about myself and I bet you,
the other thing I want to make sure our listeners know is that as you were going through that, there was no guarantee whatsoever that you would ever be able to return to the court. And if I could speak even more candidly, I really didn't think the NCAA would grant the 6th year based on case precedents, based on whatever it might be. But as we were putting it all together with our great compliance staff and all of the things that went into that, eventually great news happened.
Yeah.
And you got the 6th year, but what's important to point out, you didn't know that until real late. So you were going through the rehab, you were doing all those kind of things without really any, I don't even know if you were aspirational to come back because you probably didn't want to get disappointed.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible tribute to you because I did keep track from afar. I didn't want to get too close and talking to the doctors and making sure that you were doing everything and that you had everything you needed. But can you talk a little bit about when you did find out that you would be able to come back for the 6th year?
Yeah, it was, I gotta thank compliance. They did everything, definitely Kate. Like, I don't know how many essays she helped me write, but there's a lot, and there's a lot of work into that, so I can't thank her enough. But when she had called, I almost didn't answer. I remember I was in Cleveland visiting my boyfriend, and she had called me, but I didn't want to answer. I'm like, I don't want to hear about it right now. Like, it's just, I just want to enjoy my vacation and just let it be. But something told me to answer. And when she literally told me that I got my year, like, I just cried. Like, I didn't know what to do. It was just, I was crying more because I get another chance, but then also because it wasn't the news that I was expecting. Right. And it was just a lot going through my head. And it just motivated me 10 times more just to do whatever I can to get back on the court with this team.
Yeah, well, just for Kate, just so you know, when you're in compliance, it's sometimes you got to tell a lot of people no, and you got to be the for her to make that call. She's told me it was one of the moments of her career.
Yeah.
So I think it was special for both you guys. So now we're getting kind of up to today. So last Saturday, we're taping this on a Tuesday. Last Saturday, I'm sitting behind the bench, and we're watching you play, and guess who I see check into the game?
Who?
You.
Yeah.
So how did that feel to just walk out on that court?
It was amazing. The way that the fans greeted me, like, it was just an
They went
amazing
nuts.
feeling. I know.
Did you hear all that? I know you're very focused, but did you get a chance to hear it?
I was really focused, but, like, I kind of had to enjoy it. It was a moment that I could not even experience again, I don't think. Just seeing they always kept asking me after the game, like, D, when are you going to play? When are you going to play? So, like, just checking into the game last week, it was just a feeling of relief, just being out there and hearing the fans, like, cheer me on.
It's awesome.
It was just amazing. It's really like a family community out here in Utah. Like, everyone here is so close, and they just want you to do well, and I can't thank them enough for that.
Yeah, that's great. Sometimes I wonder if our student athletes can really hear that kind of stuff. It's validating, and for our fans to know that you hear it too. And then, of course, within like a minute, you had a steal and a score. And I'm like, she's back. That's what she does. So now let's talk about the team, right? You guys, a very young team, a team that you didn't expect to be on. So you're literally, I think, well, a lot older than some of the folks you're playing with, but that's part of the experience too. So it's kind of a tough start to the team coming together, and then really have rallied of late. Lost last night, but I believe, I'm looking at Jordy, I think we're about 6-1, 7-1 over a stretch here, something of that nature. So we're moving in the right direction. A few more non-conference, and then we're hitting this pretty substantial Pac-12 schedule coming up. So how do you feel right now for the team as we head into league play?
I feel good. We have a young team. They're great players. There are moments when you can see the young on the floor, but they're going to be great players. I love playing with them. They're so excited. They don't have that pressure on them, which I love to see, and they're just so freely and experienced and great players. I feel like moving forward, Pac-12 is a totally different I feel with the teams that we've been playing. Every game's going to be a fight. It's going to come down to the wire. And I feel like with our young folks, we just need to be 10 times more focused than other teams, because I feel like we might have the youngest team in the Pac-12s. But
I think so. As I look across the lineups and see the other teams playing, it would appear so. But I think what you said is really profound. Young, don't kind of know, so just go for it and go after it. Are you finding yourself being a little coach on the bench there?
Yeah. I just went through it for so long, and just seeing them, because looking at our young freshmen and our young team, we're going to be good in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Like, we're already good now, but just seeing like how experienced they are and how much passion they have for the game, and they just work so hard. And that's one thing that I respect about this team. You don't have to question their work ethics, because they want to win.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much for taking time. I encourage everybody to come out and watch Denisha and the team play. We're just kind of getting around the halfway point, as we head into league, and really encourage everyone to come out. It's a lot of fun. We've got a great team. but want to thank you too. You know, I'll see you a bunch before the season's over, but thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your perseverance. You know, everybody listening to this, you know, it's so hard to get a college scholarship to compete in athletics, but then the journey once you're here takes different forms. But look at you, you're sitting here, you're playing, you're going to have this incredible final run. Enjoy it, okay?
Yes.
Enjoy it and get after it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And welcome back to the December edition of the Hear from Harlan podcast, along with Mark Harlan. I'm Mike Lagerschultz, and Mark, I know we just loved the student-athlete interview, and just to find out the backstory of how Denisha Provo got here was Gavin Peterson, assistant coach whose wife is from Nova Scotia, kind of got the dialogue going, but just to hear her talk about her experience at Clemson and just how she lost her love for the game and then came here, rediscovered that, connected with her teammates, and it's just fun to see someone battle through what she's done with the transfer, the knee injury, to be where she is right now today, and just so happy with how things have turned out.
Well, you know, she's amazing, and you know, I kind of talked before. Every time we do these, I'm always a little bit stunned because I learn a little bit more, but she's one I'm pretty close to because of all her challenges, and she was such a key leader on that women's basketball team. And I learned about her coming in from Clemson and all of that, and then I was there when she got hurt that day, and it just broke my heart because I really didn't think she'd have a chance to come back. And through a lot of graces, a lot of hard work, you know, she's back with us, and she's fabulous. We didn't get into her academic, but she's an amazing student too, and she's finished up and just special. That's why we do this kind of thing, Mike, for people to kind of understand a little bit more about the young people that are surround this program. And I know a lot of listeners support the program, and so I want them to know the stories. But she's awesome, and what a reason to root not only for the women's basketball team, but for her as well.
Yeah, you forget sometimes the human element of these athletes that come in, they're teenagers, becoming adults, and they go through so much emotionally and spiritually during their 4, 5, 6 years on the college scene, and we've just seen that with her. And what a great, hopefully, great ending for her the rest of the season with the women's basketball team. All right, Mark, a chance now to hear from some of our fans on the podcast. Some questions coming in, and we'll get to some national and conference level things with you as well, Mark, here in this segment. First question coming in from one of our fans asking, well, are there any plans in place to enlarge the concessions at Rice-Eccles Stadium, especially with the renovation taking place in the next couple of years?
Well, I think one of the neat things about the South End Zone expansion to put in the Kingarth Performance Zone, it is going to space things out better. That was one of the things I was really attracted to the project, because now you have a 360, you know, walkability of the stadium, where before it just kind of, you know, ended there in the South. So part of all of that, and this is accessible to everybody in the South, whether or not you have a ticket or not, will be that whole concourse area that will have concession stands and you know, more points of sale, so to speak, for those kind of activities. So I think, and the ability for more people to flow into different areas easily rather than going up and down stairs all the time. So I think we're going to see some natural assistance with that. I think the broader question that I get periodically is, what's the next step after this? You know, people are like me, you know, you're thinking ahead. And I think working with our friends at Auxiliary Services and the university leadership is we have an obligation to always look at Rice-Eccles and make sure that the things we need to do, we have put in a planning process. And I think, you know, there are things that we want to do, of course, you know, and restrooms and concessions the rest of the way. We have to focus in on this expansion right now and where we're at, but I think there will be other elements of the stadium that we'll address in years to come.
Okay, another question kind of to follow up this, asking about the groundbreaking of the Kingarth Performance Zone, also the timetable for the demolition of the current South End Zone structure.
Well, we were blessed to have the ceremonial groundbreaking where I had a shovel. You don't want me to stay much closer to that than just that one moment. But we actually will begin the process with Layton Construction and that team in January. So we'll begin digging and moving dirt and moving things away, all the while keeping the integrity of the Clark building, which is the football operations on game day now, along with the bleachers that are on top of it. That will remain in place for next fall, next season, but around it will be excavated and infrastructure starting to go in. We have a plan to be able to get everyone into the seats, and we'll have a lot of time this spring. But we're getting after it. I mean, it's time to go. and we're really excited to be at that point.
Yeah, you know, I've talked. It's a big project with the infrastructure in this particular area, with the locker rooms and the media center and so forth, and just the high hospitality areas that are going into it. It's going to be a big project, but it should be fun for fans driving down 500 South this winter, spring to see the work taking place all spring, all summer, all fall. Should be a lot of fun to watch that.
Yeah, it will be, and we're going to do a camera where folks can see progress as we move forward. It might be a little boring at first, a couple dudes out there digging, but as we get into more of a more into it, people will be able to go to the Kingar Performance Zone website, which is linked off our website,
right,
to see progress as we go.
Yeah, Mark mentioned the link at the top of UtahEats.com. Just go there, click on Kingar Performance Zone to have updates and video eventually of that project. One more facility question, Mark. Someone asking about you building a golf facility. Words going around that's going to happen. What can you tell us as of right now?
I love it. A golf question.
Yeah.
Here we go. Right when the courses are all covered with snow. Indeed. We have trustee approval to move forward with an indoor golf facility for our fabulous men's golf team. We're excited about that. We were going to put it right there in Guardsman Way. We're still working on the exact timeline of that, but I would imagine, we'll be getting after it a little bit right around the summer.
Okay.
And so it's a really important step for our men's golf program. They need to be able to have that practice facility, obviously, in this time of year. I think it's a program that can thrive for years to come, and really excited about that. We've had some donors that have come forward to allow us to get to the point for approval, and so more information on that coming. But indeed, that is something that we're going to construct here over the next year.
Garrett Clegg doing a great job, an alum of the U, understands how do you build a program in the cold weather climate, and doing a great job with the men's golf program. I agree that will help them tremendously when this facility is completed. All right, Mark, some other topics to get into. You've been on the football oversight committee and are heavily involved with that. Any updates in terms of what your group is doing at this point?
Well, it's been a joy to be on the group. I got on to it, I think, in the summer. We've had an in-person meeting and then a lot of phone meetings. I think in general, it's a group that really looks at from a 30,000-foot view of the game. What's the next best steps? Prior to my arrival, a lot of that was on safety of the game and making sure that those elements, which are so critical to the future of the game and for the young people playing it, are at the front and of everybody's mind. So we've been working hard on that. We do a lot of work on bowls and certification and those type of things. But I think going forward, we'll look back on some rules. We'll check on the recruiting calendar for football. There's been some changes in football over the last few years. We experience one tomorrow, for example, which is the early signing day,
right,
for the sport of football. And how's that working? Is it the right spot? We'll be reviewing that over the next year. We'll be reviewing things like the redshirt rule, which is a new rule that's in its second year, where young people can play for and still have it. How's that working? So there'll be some look back, but also some looking forward. But great people on the committee care about the game, and with the goal of making sure the game only grows.
I read somewhere as many as 80% of the football signees will sign this week. It's really switched over to more of a early signing period emphasis as opposed to the sign day in February.
Well,
so that's interesting.
I think that we're really going to dive into some of that. I think that's what the hope would be, right? Because let's try to get this done for all concerned so that they can enjoy the rest of their senior year, and our coaching staff can then come back from the first year and focus on the guys that are here.
Right, spring ball and preparations.
The guys that are here are the most important, and so by and by, the feedback is really good. Coach Witt mentioned to me that this has been a growing thing for us, but he anticipates the largest portion of our group will be signed. I believe it's a 48-hour window that opens tomorrow and goes through Friday.
Yep.
But during that period of time, we'll see a majority of our class, and I think that's true with our conference too. So getting it over with, getting them signed, everybody can now get back to what they need to do, and I think that's really important.
One more question before we let you go. Everyone talks about officiating in football. It's always high profile. Yeah, imagine that. We can't get through a podcast without an officiating question, but everyone remembers the high-profile calls, whether they go for you or against you. I know you and the ADs at the conference level with Larry Scott, you've had conversations. You're also on this oversight committee. Anything you can tell us about the conversations going on and any developments or conversation about things at this point?
Well, I think, what's been going on, obviously we played the championship game 10 days ago or so. There were some calls that were high-profile that I guess one could say, did not go for the Utes. Mike, is that a good way to say that?
That's a good way to put it, delicately put, yes.
So I think maybe the best thing I can do without getting too specific is just the process of what we go through on that for every game remains the same for the championship game, whereby we put forward, plays that we want to have another look at. And we did that in this case. We get the response back from the league. It's a collaborative response. Doesn't mean we always agree, but it is a collaborative, conversation about why this went this way, why this didn't go that way. And then at the end of the day, every official in that game or any other game is graded and are held accountable to decisions that are made, just like our student athletes are, our coaches are, frankly, everybody is in the process.
Right.
So, I think they're officiating this year with some of our new aspects that we put into it of transparency and talking about certain things has improved. Just like anything, it needs to even improve more next year, right? I think that's part of the process. But the process itself, I think, is solid. Obviously, I know the disappointment in some of those things, but in the totality of a year, totality of a game, calls go for, go against,
right?
And I think by and by there's some fairness in that way. But I do think the process is good, and we do definitely. We don't sit back. I'll just leave it like that. We were very engaged with the conference after a game, especially one like that.
Yeah, I think it's good for fans to know that there is a thought process. There are people looking at these things, evaluating. It's not just the games happen in a vacuum and we move on to next week or next season. There's actually some looking into this, and I think that's good for the fans to know.
Right. The other thing I'll address about the game, because I've seen some questions have come in, we appreciate Santa Clara. We appreciate it, but it's good to be going to Vegas. I think it's time to as we saw with the basketball championship, that's the lift that we hope we get. I'm probably like many others. If the game was in Vegas, I think we would have had a lot more people because of the accessibility, although I appreciate our fans. We really did show up again. The field conditions, I know some people have asked me about that. It wasn't great. It was so hard to see two of our guys get turf monstered. And just, broke my heart for both those guys. But I think it'll be great to get into a new venue. I think it'll be a great surge of energy for our league. Our teams deserve to have large crowds in championship games, and I think we're heading in that direction.
Yeah, Santa Clara was great, as you mentioned. Before it was on campus, they at least had a chance to go to a neutral site, get the feel of that. That was a good place to go at the time, but no question, I think you ask anybody, Vegas is going to be the ideal place to go, and that's where we're headed next year. Should be a lot of fun. Let's get back there. What do you say? Let's be back to the championship game next year.
Why not us? Why not us? We got a lot of prideful guys in this program. We have a lot of young people that, because we've been so senior laden, maybe haven't had the opportunity to play. And I promise you, we got some great student athletes that will emerge. It'll be fun. And I think it starts with the Texas game. Everybody rallying around that game and gets into next year. I think we know who our opponent is to start the season next year. We'll talk about those guys later. But for right now, focusing on Texas. And again, I want to thank everybody for their tremendous support all year long. Couldn't have done it without anybody.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you to Mike Gilliland and Sarah Shebeck on the new media side for supplying questions. Mike makes us sound great with these podcasts. So, guys, it's the holidays. Time to give thanks and appreciate some people. So thank you, Mike and Sarah. Thanks to Denisha Provo for dropping by, and Mark, to you and your family. Have a great holidays. Enjoy the trip to San Antonio, and we'll see you back here in the new year.
To my two favorite Mikes, I say the same thing. Happy holidays to you guys, and again, to all Utah fans, and to your guys' family as well. Happy holidays, and look forward to seeing everybody the first of the year.
All right, sounds good, Mark. That will do it for us. For Mark Harlan, I'm Mike Lagerschultz. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been the Hear It From Harlan podcast. Subscribe and listen all year long as we keep you up to date on Utah athletics.